podcast hub.
Yeah,
it's
I
called.
think so.
Yes. Brought to you by ProAV and AKA Design, and very nice it is too. My name is Ben Neems. I'm joined by Nina Hartstone, who we've just come off the audio theatre around the corner.
Yep.
Still somewhat residual adrenaline buzz from public speaking, which is always an ordeal, but made all the more comfortable by being in your presence. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, Ben. It's great to continue the chat because we always feel like we run out of time.
We always do, yeah. I mean, we got through most of it, I think. Some good questions at the end as well about ADR. But one of the most pleasing things about it was having done the kind of the run through your career and your kind of origin story, which we'll get into a bit more, I think, in this podcast. But having gone through that and talked about the more recent work and Wuthering Heights, of course, this year, when we'd finished with the questions and when you left the stage, there's always a queue of people that want to grab you and ask their question, just one-to-one.
Yeah.
Rather than necessarily in front of a room full of people on a radio mic or have me read it out in front of everybody. And a lot of the people that came and grabbed you afterwards were young women.
Yeah, which is great. And I love the opportunity actually to connect with young talent that's coming up in the industry. So, but it's just so great to see the interest and see what the future looks like for our industry. And it always fills me with hope to see these, particularly to see the sort of diversity improving, representation improving in sound. And
well, here's hoping so, yeah. It's been a thing we've been talking about for a long time. And some years I'm despondent that it's not getting better.
Yeah.
But it's for you to be able to give that advice. I mean, there's two ways you did that today. One is in the one-to-one conversations that you had after our talk with people that came up to you and said, like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, here's my situation, what bit of advice can you give me? But actually, without explicitly doing that, just in the course of the conversation that we had, I think, that advice is there.
Yeah.
And, just without kind of redoing our entire conversation again, I think we started with your origin story, which was that most people come to this. I mean, you're a supervising sound editor. I should say this for the benefit of the podcast. For those who don't know, Nina is an Oscar, a BAFTA, an Emmy award-winning supervising sound editor behind such enormous titles as Bohemian Rhapsody, Saltburn, and this year Wuthering Heights, of course. And we talked a bit about your origin story because everybody comes to this not knowing that the job that you do, the peak of the mountain that you've climbed is even a mountain.
Yes,
they don't know that it exists. Your careers officer will never tell you that you can be a supervising sound editor on feature films. And you came at it at least with the knowledge that existed, but your choice at the beginning was to try a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And I think even that piece of advice is useful. You can't decide straight away, I want to be that.
I think, and until you actually take part in a role, and start collaborating with people and trying to sort of pursue a particular side of things, you don't really know how well it's going to suit you, how much you're going to enjoy it, how inspired you'll be by doing that kind of work. And I think there's a huge value in this industry of chance encounters and the skills that you gain working on a film, working on a TV show. There are so many soft skills there that are transferable.
Yeah.
It takes a village to make a movie. And I think learning how to collaborate with creative people is a massive sort of undertaking. Yeah. And bringing one of the sort of key pieces of advice I think I would give to people is be positive. That you cannot overestimate the what positivity brings to our process. It's hard. We work hard. We work long hours. The job we're trying to do is difficult. The deadlines are tough. But if you can be someone who brings some positivity and some enthusiasm to a role as a trainee or whatever role you can get in a runner, any of these kind of roles within sound, I think it really pays off. Everyone wants to be around people who enjoy being there.
Yeah, it's kind of being aware of the shadow that you leave. Being aware of the shadow you cast. Is that a positive or a negative thing? Are you part of the problem or part of the solution? And you say putting yourself in as many different rooms as you can, creating your own opportunity, because it's never been and still isn't a structured, formal course. I mean, you studied film.
Yeah.
But to what extent is studying film the way in, and to what extent is throwing yourself in the way in?
Yeah, I think there's a huge amount of the job that you learn on the job, actually. Even, we have some great graduates from MPTS, for example, where they've got really kind of key skills that they learn in that postgraduate course of sound design. And but still, it doesn't, it gives you a great basis. It gives you some really good skill sets, but you still need to do that, sort of stepping into the actual industry and working out how the whole thing works in the real situation, and feeling the sort of responsibility of those deadlines and all that kind of thing. It's getting experience on the job is really, really key. But you never know. Like, I've been freelance my entire life, and it's not. You know no other way. No, and you think it's going to be a clean graph. You're looking at my career on paper from sort of trainee up to supervising sound editor. You'd think it's a sort of very clean sort of way up, and it just isn't. It's been side steps. It's been this. It's been that. It's been kind of. It feels a bit, particularly for a woman, I would say, a bit of a game of snakes and ladders.
Yeah. If you zoom out far enough, it's a rise.
Yeah, exactly.
If you zoom in, you can see all the ups and downs.
All the ups and downs, and I've had 3 children along the journey, so it feels like each time I've kind of had to dip out a little bit to be a mother, I've kind of slid down the snake and had to try and find my way through another ladder. So I've gone from supervising dialogue back to fitting some Foley, just to keep in it. And I think the key thing in this industry is to be around. You have to be in it to get those next steps. Yeah,
no, for sure. And then you mentioned dialogue there. I mean, I think one of the things that's really interesting about the way that your career has gone is that quite early on, and partly because of technology and being around stuff and seeing things change and having your eyes open to what's happening, is that you found yourself kind of specializing in the dialogue side, and beyond that the ADR side of things, which gives you a unique level of exposure both vertically and horizontally. So in terms of the timeline, you're involved early and late in shows. So when production's packed off and gone and post begins, the cast are there still, specifically for ADR. The director is very, very interested in ADR, and you're there. And it gives you that up and down the kind of heads of department. You have to interact with all kinds of different people on a feature.
That's the thing, and it's just, I think there can be a temptation, and you're sort of saying it about at school, people don't really know. We need to sort of fix the pipeline all the way up in terms of opportunities for people. And I think that people don't really know what's involved, and I think there's a route that comes into sound that is very technical. And actually, that working on dialogue and ADR and performance side of things is a whole different aspect to it. I think so many people come into sound via music or via...
That's the old story, right? I was in bands, I was messing around with computers.
Exactly. It's that sort of side of things. Whereas there's a huge part of my job. I mean, you have to have a certain level of technical expertise, of course, because we're working on, software and hardware. But there's a huge part of the storytelling process and the performances that you're working with when you're working with actors that is a very different skill set, actually. And you're collaborating with a director and an actor to try and get the best performance out of them. And the reality is that people enjoy a film because they enjoy watching particular actors take on roles. And there's a reason that our A-listers are paid enormous amounts of money for the films that they do. It's because that's what people want to watch. They want to watch them. Project Hail Mary, for example. Amazing that Ryan Gosling can kind of hold that film really all the way through with his performance. And it's a real sort of... it just goes to show it is all about that connection. The audiences who are coming to watch those films want to feel that connection with the people on screen. And the direction of that, which becomes a big part of the sound process in post. There's no film that doesn't have ADR these days, really. It's not just technical; it's creative as well. You're working with storytelling to try and make an edit work. Maybe scenes get removed and you have to create new lines to keep the story beats going along and make sure the audience understands what's happening. And so it becomes a huge part of what that actor's finest performance is, and it's a really lovely challenge to be involved in.
It's always occurred to me that ADR is sort of 10% the technology
Yeah.
the microphones, the microphone technique, and 90% psychology. Both you and actor, stroke you and director,
Yeah.
stroke director and actor.
Yep.
Reading that room.
Reading the room is
Yeah.
really key. And I remember working on Beauty and the Beast, where we had 4 different actors in the UK, and it was like, all fairly big names, but it was one after the other. And by the end of it, the director and I would just sat there and go, wow, that has been some shifting energy all day. And it was all great, but you sort of realise actually that the energy is so specific to the actor that you have in and the people you have in the room on each occasion. And that is all based also in their experience in the film. So you're constantly having to kind of pivot to find the best way to work with each actor as you engage with them and keep. Again, this is where the positivity comes in. Having my own children and how they are approached by teachers about their work, for example. They get told, at the end of a piece of work, the feedback might be what went well and then even better if. And I think it's a really good way of approaching things. Like every single time an actor does a line, it's a very exposing craft doing ADR. What went well with that take? And on the next one, it'd be even better if you could do this. And it's always, again, framing the positivity.
Yeah.
And making...
It's a yes and.
Yeah, because
It's a kind of improv thing almost.
We're nothing if we can't get the performance out of the actor. The ADR will not work unless we can get the performance that is needed, and that is going to work on screen and make the audience feel it's believable.
No, I think you talk about soft skills as well, and I think it's sort of good. It's sort of mixed news there, really, because it's all about soft skills.
Yeah.
Which is great because that makes it democratic.
Yeah.
Right. The bad news is that no matter what, some people will not have those soft skills. The really good news is that anybody can have those soft skills.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with anything other than do you have those soft skills or not, and can you, if you're not born with them, can you fairly quickly learn them? And that doesn't matter who you are.
No, exactly.
That's the good news.
Well, we're all growing all the time, and one of the things I love about this job that I do is that I get to learn on the job. And every film, I don't know, it feels like, of course you bring your experience to it, but you almost start at ground zero again on every film and go, okay, what does this one need? What does this director need? What does this team of people need? What does this story need from me? And what is the best way for me to approach that? And the soft skills that you gain learning how to collaborate with people is a stressful part of the process post-production, particularly once you get towards sort of ADR on the mix.
Well, you're so late in it by this point, right?
So late in it. Generally, everything else sort of concertinas up.
The one thing they can't shift.
Yeah, the deadline doesn't shift. As soon as that poster's gone out with the dates on it.
It's going out on Valentine's Day, and that's that.
Exactly. You know you've got to hit those marks. And so I think it is and it's stressful for everyone, and people display stress in different ways. So the best thing to do is to try and understand what's causing the stress rather than reacting to the stress.
Yeah.
And those kind of things, they take time to learn. They take time and experience to learn that kind of thing. But also there's, there are many different roles in sound as well, where if you find it difficult to maybe bring that sort of psychology to it, there are roles as well where you can sort of sit in a room and be creating cool sounds and minimize the amount of psychology you have to bring to what you're doing. It's just such a diverse craft.
Yeah.
Sound.
You don't know what any day, when you and I worked together, I had the privilege of working with you once, and that, if I remember rightly, involved sitting around eating ice cream for 3 days.
Yeah, it was great.
If you want to sit around eating ice cream for 3 days, maybe this is the job for you. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But
the flippant point I'm making is just for being constantly ready, because you don't know. Any minute now, our principal actor's turning up.
Yeah.
Are we ready? Hurry up and wait.
Exactly, and it is. There are lots of things that on every show feel unachievable.
Yeah.
You look at it on paper and you go, well, we're not going to be able to do that, but you find a way. And actually that's the fun part, is actually finding the path.
I think several of the things we've just talked about, several of those threads come together in something that we touched on in our talk on the theatre a little while ago, and the timing of it was that we couldn't really explore it as much as perhaps I'd have liked to. Specifically around Wuthering Heights, which of course is a big thing this year that you did. Around this notion of the weather being a character.
Yeah.
and the intimacy and the kind of interaction between the two principal cast being the other big thing.
Yeah.
And how those two forces directly compete and directly work against each other. And it ties into your point about being flexible and learning to adapt and being ready to adapt at any given moment.
Yeah.
And to some of what you talked about around psychology and bringing the performance out in ADR and how you can, the impact you can have on what ends up on screen
Yeah.
through an approach to ADR. So,
I mean, the devil is definitely in the detail with something like that, where you're literally, the emotions of these two characters are such a fine line you're walking all the way through it. And it was an interesting film, Wuthering Heights, in terms of, you kind of read the script, it's grand, it's huge, the story of it, the weather, the houses, the emotions that it is describing are massive and epic. And so it was one of those things where I suddenly feel like I'm working on, Gone with the Wind. So it's like huge. Just the way it's shot and the beauty that is on screen is, the costumes and the sets and everything. It's just, it would hold a lot of sound in a way.
Right.
It was interesting how you kind of, one of the first things we realised with it was, we could keep elaborating on this storytelling with sound, both in sound design and kind of following the journey that goes at once from kind of just a peak of emotion and upset and crying and, just feeling like your heart is being ripped out, to the breathiest, sort of subtlest, kind of restrained, withheld moments. And it's a delicate journey, that, with the performances that were, crafted so incredibly by the actors in the film. And I felt a huge responsibility to maintain what they had done and what they had created in using ADR for it. So it was the most important thing to me is Kathy and Heathcliff in that film, and following their journey, and everything is in orbit around them. Like, the weather is a description of their internal turmoil and their longing. And I think, so all of it just felt like such a massive landscape for us, both visually and just, kind of ethereally in a way, for us to explore. But they're at the heart of it, so everything has to feel entirely real, and to the point of every tiny little inhale or every lip smack that is a dry mouth of kind of anxiety, every held breath that then maybe gets released or doesn't. All of those tiny, tiny detailed moments we crafted very, very carefully to ensure that journey for the audience, that they are with them 100% of the way.
and not just individually. I mean, I've seen an awful lot of actor ADR, and I've seen an awful lot of group ADR, lead group. I don't think I've seen two-handed ADR before. That's a new one. But I can see why. That's a sensible thing to do in that situation. That interplay.
Again, it's that almost reverse engineering. Like, every film, we sort of approach it as like, okay, what do I need here? This film is about the relationship between those two people. If I am recording them in post in ADR, I need to maintain that chemistry that they had on set, and it's like all the work that is done before people get into the shoot, in the rehearsals, in pre-production, once they get on set, it's all done to build something that you can't name, in a way. It's like, it is something intangible. It's a chemistry that happens in certain takes.
As you say, that was honed from the table read through the shoot. And suddenly you can't split it asunder. So you go into that room in LA. You go to that room in London.
No, it's just...
do it.
So to my mind, I'm like, it's never going to work. The most important thing about this is the two of them. Our two souls are the same. It says it in the film. Like, I can't then separate them.
No.
We need to allow them to carry on being that kind of, that longing unit that can't pull apart from each other. And so, in my mind, technical things aside, yes, it creates some challenges, but we can solve those. We can work that out.
It must have raised some eyebrows in the studio.
Of course. I mean, and we recorded in LA, and again, it's sort of it's very non-traditional what I'm trying to do, but I'm like, we could do it, you know. And this is all kind of based on things that I've done from working on Mowgli, for example, with Andy Serkis, and knowing that we needed to record him and Christian Bale and the kid who played Mowgli at the same time, because they all need to interact with their head-mounted cameras. And it's just like, okay, well, you find solutions on things and then you build on them for the next project.
I wonder if you'll see more of it. I wonder if this is now a new thing.
Yeah.
Because it's such a kind of, well, obviously, if you've got interaction between characters and you can get them in a room, you can do loop group, you can do ADR. Let's do a kind of...
But it all starts with story. It all starts with, you know, my motivation is to try and maintain the core of this film.
Yeah.
And that is, their relationship is the core of that film. So everything else is just like, well, we have to make it work with that. That's, you know, that's where we go with it.
No, absolutely. I think what else we talked about? We talked a lot about, we talked a little bit about Bohemian Rhapsody and how that and your collaboration with John Warhurst ended up giving rise to a kind of a new era of, what do we call them? Musical
biopics, musical dramas.
Yeah, which previously had been dialogue and then pop video, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Or dialogue and then performance as two very distinct things with boundary between them.
Yeah.
Whereas from Bohemian Rhapsody and then through Mooney's Daydream and Whitney and now Michael, there's a kind of, everybody's expectation of those things is heightened, and that's your fault.
Yeah, I think it's, you know...
You did that.
Well, John and I spoke about it at length, really, and it, you know, the whole... We both have the same taste for that kind of thing. We both have the same sort of feelings about storytelling and how important that is. And when you're portraying a musical biopic, you're trying to get close to some individuals. We can all listen to the music, we can all see the concerts, you know, footage of the concerts they've performed, but what you're bringing with this biopic is you're bringing a drama. It's a drama that has sung dialogue in it and some musical performances that are organically within their journey. You know, we might see them walking on stage, we might see them walking off stage, and what happens after the stage in the after party, those sorts of things. It's like our approach has always been, this is a film, this is a drama, we're creating a drama. It's just that music happens to be a big part of it because our lead characters are musicians.
They happen to be musicians. Yeah.
And so it just felt like a different approach. And then of course you want to, for the, you know, something like Bohemian Rhapsody, for the final kind of big Live Aid scene, we're then also trying to bring the audience something, you know, a version of that experience that if they weren't able to go to Live Aid in 1985 and attend that concert, this is the next best thing. That's what we wanted to do.
Yeah, and it's a huge cinema moment.
Yeah,
it just is. Everyone knows it. I hadn't seen it in a couple of years because I haven't seen it in a couple of years. And then you were kind enough to supply the clip, which we could all sit together and watch and remember how utterly awesome that scene is, and as a climax to the movie.
Yeah.
And as a technical craft tour de force that it is, and which of course is not my opinion; it's that of the Academy, and rightly so. So that was fabulous to watch, and then, you know, it's great to see that feeding into the people that wanted to come up to you afterwards and talk to you, because I think this is the point of all this, right? Is to explore your story and how you've done what you've done, and that be inspiring.
I mean, I think, to my mind, all of this stuff, it actually all feels like common sense to me. Like the way we think about it and the way we want to portray it, it all feels quite sort of obvious in some ways, you know. But actually, I guess it is a different approach, and I think it is really key to sort of thinking about what we want the end result to be like, and what we want the audience to feel when they're watching the end results, and then working back from there as to how do we achieve that.
And I think you're right. It is common sense if you have that sensibility, and maybe you have that sensibility if this stuff really interests you, and that's good because that all feeds into itself. If you're not interested in it, you wouldn't. And this is going to sound awful, but if you're not really that interested in hedge funds, you might go and do it anyway.
Yeah.
right? And you might, that's great.
Yeah.
But if you're interested in this, and a lot of people are, they have an emotional connection to it, they are excited by it, and then the common sense stuff. The good news is that it will take you quite a long way.
Yeah.
Is the common sense stuff, the caring about the end product,
Yeah.
and the ability, the soft skills you talked about, of working hard, being on time, and not being a dick.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
I mean, and I've been so fortunate actually with the experiences that I've had on all the films that I've worked on to constantly sort of explore and challenge and break boundaries and try and do something better each time and build on that time I've spent with extremely talented actors and directors to sort of see how they approach getting those amazing performances on screen that reach right to the heart of the audiences. And it's, I don't know, it's an X factor, whatever it is, it's something that it's very hard to actually put into words what it is. So we're always trying to reach for that and bringing that sort of side of things, bringing that approach, I guess, and that thought process into filmmaking and how you can use sound to help amplify that and really, really support storytelling in the best way possible. It's just has been the approach all along.
No, thank you. And I think we're about done with this episode from the MPTS 2026 podcast. So, Nina, thank you. One, for giving up the time today to come do this and to do our talk. And then secondly, for being the inspiration that you are for so many.
Oh, thank you so much, Ben. It's been so wonderful to chat to you, and best of luck to everyone who's interested in getting into sound. Just keep plugging away.
I think that's us.
Thank you.